This is Kinda Murdery Season 1, Ghost Towns of the Mojave Desert, presented by Criminal Content.
You're rocketing down the 15 freeway between Vegas and LA. It's a scorched wasteland of Airstream meth labs and unrelenting heat. This is no place you'd want to stop. But the car's on fumes, so you take the exit and you pull up to the gas station. It's abandoned, a concrete canvas that some local Michelangelos turned into the Sistine Chapel of spray paint penis. A grave marker for every crazy story lost in the desert sands. These are the ghost towns of the Mojave Desert. And this is Kinda Murdery.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Kinda Murdery Season 1, Ghost Towns of the Mojave Desert. I'm your host, Zevon Odelberg. Thanks for deciding to be here. Hey everybody, we're here today with Tess Lynch. Hey Tess, do you have a Kinda Murdery story from your own life you can tell us? We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, the one that I can legally share. Just kidding. I didn't kill anybody. Just kidding. I don't know how murdery this is. I'm on the murdery scale. It's more mysterious than it is on its face murdery. But
this is kinda murdery, so I think you're okay.
That's the thing. I was like, it is kind of murdery. I grew up pretty close to a place called Onion Town, which I don't know if any of you guys have heard of.
That sounds like a podcast if I've ever heard one.
Well, it can't be because it is, they won't let anyone in or out, really. So it's very mysterious. Okay, so it is right outside of Dover, or I guess it's in Dover Plains, Dover, New York, which is really beautiful area. It's about, I think, like an hour and a half out of New York City. And growing up, I always heard whispers of this place called Onion Town that we would drive by. There's a road, and it was just understood nobody went down there. And even the adults in my town were very reluctant to share information about. It was very like gossipy and rumory. And
no one goes down to Onion Town.
No one's going down to Onion Town. And it was really weird because I kind of couldn't believe that this place existed, and it's surrounded by all of these really affluent neighborhoods, but it's in the country, so you kind of don't really know a lot of your neighbors, and there are those kind of little pockets. But I looked into it a few years ago because it was written about in Vice magazine, and I think the title was Peeling Onion Town. And I guess what happened was in 2008, these kids, like teenagers who lived pretty close to Onion Town and had heard the rumors, and the rumors involved a lot of inbreeding, a lot of crime, drug rings. They decided...
Sounds like the Mojave.
Fun.
It's the right? New York's Mojave.
Well, that's the thing. It reminds me so much of places like Trona, but kind of a more extreme version. I mean, Trona today, not Trona back in the day, but just in terms of how people view these little pockets as being, you kind of imbue them with all of these horrible ideas of what goes on. And that really makes a situation where the people can't integrate with other communities. So they become so insular. And I think like it kind of perpetuated itself, like that they really are wary of outsiders, and outsiders are very wary of them, but they're curious. So these kids in 2008 went into Onion Town with their phones, and they were recording the residents, and at what, they're being so mean and like judgmental. At one point, one of the kids in this YouTube video is like, "Oh my God, it's a fucking chicken! It's a fucking chicken!" It's like, yeah, you're like in upstate New York.
People have chickens in their backyards in Southern California.
Yeah. But just this like sensationalized, like, oh my God, these hillbillies. And they went viral. And there were a bunch of videos. And then by that point, the residents knew when a car would come down the road that it was kids taking these YouTube videos. So you know, they were shooting at the people, at the YouTubers. They were throwing bricks at them. One girl got a brick to her face. And that just made, it made tensions much worse than they'd been. But I was looking back at the history of Oniontown, and it was actually written about in this local paper. I think it was a local paper because I had never heard of it, but then again, it was 1947, so maybe I just missed this was the paper of record at the time. But they wrote a series of articles about the people in Oniontown and how they had no electricity, the post office wouldn't service them, the sanitation wouldn't service them. They had like 15 children per family, and that kind of cemented their reputation way back then, and then it's just persisted since. And they still don't get mail delivery, and they still don't have garbage trucks.
Oh my gosh. So
yeah.
I'm seeing it here, escape from atomic age, real life tobacco road, 100 miles from Broadway.
Yep.
1947 Oniontown.
So-
Because this is near where I am right now. I'm in Rhinebeck, so it's nearby.
yeah.
I'm kind of I've been to Dover Plains a few times.
sounds to me like sort of how there's all those versions of CSI New York, CSI Miami. What we have here is Hills Have Eyes New York.
Yeah, pretty much. Except there was, in the Vice article, the reporter goes in, and at first they're very nervous to talk. I mean, they're hostile towards him. They're like, I really don't want any more attention in our neighborhood. But eventually he's a cool, he just hangs out and like smokes with them and talks, and he's clearly different than the teenagers with, their videos. So they start to trust him, and they are just a very normal group of people. And there's a lot of also racism apparently that came into play. I'm not sure at what point between the 40s and now, but there were black people who ended up moving to Oniontown, and the original founding families were there, and people started kind of adding a racist element to their discussions about Oniontown. And the whole article just makes it so clear that the people who live around Oniontown are kind of the real villains, and that they've kind of made it so that the kids who grow up in Oniontown tend to drop out of school early because they're really not accepted by the local schools. They would throw onions. I think I read a report of like a high school basketball game or something, and there was an Oniontown kid on the court. They were throwing onions on the court. So they just force them to have to stay within their community, and it's very heartbreaking actually. But it is kind of, I feel terrible too, because growing up I totally participated in those rumors of like, oh yeah, Oniontown's like the scariest place in the world, and I felt like such a dick when I read this.
You're probably okay, but you never went down and started chucking onions at children.
No.
So I think you're
never
okay.
thrown an onion at a child. Only my own children get the onions.
So it sounds like
Just shallots.
shallots for the neighbors.
Green
Dodgeball.
onions. Good
Yeah.
for the skin.
It sounds like people who were socially shunned or outside of the norm for whatever reason moved to Oniontown, and then it became a self-fulfilling prophecy where it was just a vicious cycle of, I mean, there may have been some truth to say some of those inbreeding rumors, but maybe because people had 15 kids and nobody was coming in or leaving, you end up sort of marrying your cousin or something.
That's exactly
right?
it. Yeah. And people leave and then they come back because, I mean, unless they can go pretty far from Oniontown, I think you kind of leave Oniontown, and then when people find out where you're from, if they're at all familiar with the area, it's just a very like, I mean, and it's actually shocking to me that this kind of stigma still like can exist to this degree, where people would just unanimously be like, oh no, they're from Oniontown. But it clearly is still going on today.
Wow.
Even with more knowledge into how they live their lives, and there are definitely arrests in there. There's a lot of poverty, but it's nothing as scandalous as I was ever led
So
to believe.
do we know why it's called Oniontown, or is it just like they have terrible breath over there, those Oniontowners? I mean, is there a specific
There
reason?
are three theories, and the first is that it was surrounded at one point by onion farms. Seems pretty legit.
That's plausible.
The second is that it's a riff on Youngstown, because when the settlers first moved in, they were having so many children that it was like, oh, if there's a family with a ton of kids, they're Youngstown, they're Oniontown.
Need hands to pull the onions. Yeah.
Exactly. Need more of those baby hands for onion pulling. And then the third one was just sort of a like, oh, they smell like onions because they're poor, which is, I don't know even like how anyone's kind of pulling those threads together. Like, if someone smells like onions, what's up with them. Of course.
Boy.
But yeah, those are the three theories, and they've never really decided which one is the actual origin.
So part of what I'm taking away from this is the fact that they make such nice furniture saves the Amish from a lot of ridicule.
It's very reminiscent of, it's exactly, I mean, and instead in Onion Town there's a lot of like
good
pig farming
produce
and
too.
stuff like that. Yeah, good produce and really nice bonnets. I mean, if they could get into the bonnet industry, especially now that cottagecore is so in vogue, like you could really do something with that.
Cottagecore. We need to do a whole episode on cottagecore.
Oh yeah.
There's a pin on the map that says Food Distribution Center Youth in Motion.
Youth
At
in
Onion
motion?
Town?
Yeah, in Onion Town. I don't know why Youth in Motion would be a part of a food distribution center.
Because they're throwing the onions. The youth in
And
motion.
the kids are dodging. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, I mean it's weird because the more you know about Onion Town in a way, the less you know. Because for every article like the Vice one that kind of sheds some light on it, there are people in the area who will tell you like, no, it's way worse than that. There's even Onion Town fan fiction that I found on like a weird blog where it's like, a horror short story about Onion Town, and when you start reading it you're like 2 paragraphs in thinking, but this is all fact, but it who knows, it's just myth.
Yeah, and they're so hosed too because I just referenced the Amish and this idea that they make wonderful furniture, or Adam said they have great produce, but Onion Town has been branded in such a way that they can't really take up a cottage industry to pull themselves out of this stereotyping, because like, who's going to want a gross Onion Town bonnet? I mean, that's sort of the way that the whole town has been branded. So it really sucks. Those poor Onion
really
Towners.
Sucks. I know, it's really sad.
I would buy a baseball cap with an onion on it. I'm just putting that out there. If anyone if any of our listeners are from Onion Town, you want to rebrand, like, I think dad hats, they're very in right now. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Chi-Town, Onion Town. There's something there for sure. Well, for Adam Volrich, Brendan Hubbard, Sean Christensen, and the tremendously talented Tess Lynch, I'm Zevon Odelberg, and this has been Kinda Murdery.
This is Kinda Murdery, Ghost Towns of the Mojave Desert, presented by Criminal Content. You can find us online at kindamurdery.com and on all social media at Kinda Murdery. Email us at contact@kindamurdery.com. Listen to us on all your favorite podcasting apps: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Google, and more. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends about the show.